Do you know what time it is? Maybe it's tool time or peanut butter jelly time. Of course, telling time isn't just for TV shows and songs. It's about day-to-day work, play, and even survival. We measure and want to know what time it is so we can get to school when we need to, or finish something for work before a given deadline. Ancient people were just as aware of the passage of time as we are today. They may not have had atomic clocks, cell phones, or even grandfather clocks to help them with this, yet they still managed to time important days coinciding with religious events or matters of survival, like when to plant a crop. How they did this varies from one place to another, and we'll explore some interesting concepts related to telling time in ancient history. It is suspected that way back in Paleolithic times, people kept track of natural, regular cycles as a way of noting time. By the way, the Paleolithic period is more commonly known as the Old Stone Age. So, what natural, regular cycles would be used by ancient people? Well, as an example, the changing phases of the moon were likely to have been employed early on for telling time, or at the very least anticipating certain events or moments for a certain activity. Therefore, the lunar phase cycle would allow lots of different advantages that could be, in a manner of speaking, timed. For example, some people would wait for a big full moon to travel out at night. Seafarers could time the oceanic tides with the phases of the moon. Further still, some communities developed rituals, folk practices, and beliefs that were related to the lunar phase cycle. As you can tell, observations of celestial bodies and their motions, including that of the moon, planets, and our sun, weren't really used as a way to give out exact units of time, like minutes or hours. Instead, time was tracked in a very different way. Regular cycles allowed ancient people to have a sense of temporality that could, by all means, regulate important rituals or activities necessary for survival. But this does not imply that an exact unit of time was measured through these astronomical periodicities. To further delineate this concept, we must appreciate the fact that while today time is a linear concept, separate from observable natural phenomena like the regular cycle of the moon, and is a concept with a past, present, and future, it was likely not seen this way long ago. Instead, time was circular, not linear. It was viewed as an infinite repetition of regular cycles. Of course, some ancient people, like the Maya, employed both linear and circular concepts of time. As people evolved and civilizations began popping up around the world, there was more time for people to engage in intellectual pursuits. This allowed individuals and cultures to construct more advanced ways to measure, mark, keep track of, and anticipate time. One big leap forward was the creation of a calendar. Ancient people all over the world had different calendars and different ways of creating them in order to try and date everything from religious rituals to when a business transaction should take place. Without a specific date, it would be kind of hard to tell a business partner where and when to meet someone to broker a deal. One type of calendar that was created is known as a horizon calendar, a calendar developed by monitoring the position of the sunrise on successive days against different distant landmarks. For example, the peaks and valleys of mountain ranges could have been used to watch for where the sun rose that particular day, then the next, and in a month's time, and so forth down the line. Such calendars were used in central Mexico and with Native Americans like the Hopi in what is now the United States. Other indigenous people, like the Maya, used extensive astronomical observations along with sophisticated numerical systems to come up with the Mayan long count calendar. Even with these two examples, you can tell that the way by which a calendar was developed varied from place to place. Moreover, calendar development depended on a lot more than just the people who created them. Location was key as well. For instance, with shifting latitudes, the variations in the length of day and the position of the sunrise or sunset on the horizon would differ, and these factors would influence a calendar's development and thus its, quote, timing. Even within the same general area and groups of people, there existed variations of calendars. As a case in point, Polynesian islanders had different names for months and even different timing of months within a seasonal year. This lesson cannot be complete without a discussion of the sundial, a device used to tell the time of day using the position of the sun. The earliest forms of what we know to be a sundial appear as early as 3500 BC. Sundials were a very important way of telling time in ancient history. Over 30 such devices were found in Pompeii alone. The earliest forms of a sundial were very rudimentary and consisted of something like a rod or pole that cast a shadow when the sun shone upon it. The length of the shadow would indicate the time of day. Progressively, sundials became more intricate and gave people the ability to tell what hour of the day it was and account for variations in the length of each hour with the changing seasons. As long ago as the Paleolithic, that is to say during the Old Stone Age, people kept track of time by using the lunar phase cycle. Ancient people also developed all sorts of different calendars, like the horizon calendar, a calendar developed by monitoring the position of the sunrise on successive days against different distant landmarks. But calendars varied depending on the culture that developed them and the place on Earth they were located on. The sundial, a device used to tell the time of day using the position of the sun, has existed in at least one form or another for over 5,000 years. They evolved from simple indicators of time to having the ability to actually account for the length of an hour based on the changing seasons.